plans for the Little Turtle Public Improvements Project. Today, we will hear from representatives of the Department of Public Service regarding the planning, purpose, and public engagement on the project. Legislation to vote on a construction contract regarding this project is slated to come before City Council on July 19th. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that we are hosting this hearing today in a hybrid approach where Councilmember Remy and myself are in council chambers and our speakers are on site and City Hall, as well as our department heads are hosted in another building within City Hall. Please bear with us as we navigate this terrain around a hybrid approach to hosting these hearings. Before I turn it over to Public Service team to begin the presentation, I'd like to mention that I first learned of and began engagement on this project in September 2020. My team and I had the opportunity to meet with members of the Little Turtle Civic Association for a tour of the area and to hear of some of the residents' concerns. Since that time, I've worked with the Department of Public Service to get answers to many of the questions that have been submitted over the past several months. And I hope this evening is another opportunity to address those concerns with the public. With that, I will now turn it over to our city engineer and administrator with the Department of Public Service, James Young. Mr. Young, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor. If I could get the share on the presentation. So hi, my name is James Young, I'm City Engineer, Department of Public Service. And with me today is Jim Pike, the Assistant Administrator, Design and Construction, and Judd Hines, the CIP, Capital Improvement Projects Program Manager. Kevin Thomas, who is the Project Manager, was not able to attend today. He's off on a much deserved vacation, but we're gonna go through the project and go through the overview. We're going to present the project purpose and need, the overview of the project, cost comparisons from a planning standpoint, and the public engagement timeline and outcomes. The purpose of the project of Little Turtle was to reconstruct a street that has been exceeded by its surface life. It was constructed in 1975. It was resurfaced in 2004. A lot of the failures in the pavement can not just be resurfaced, we actually have to reconstruct it. This project will provide also separate pedestrian facilities. And we're going to go through this presentation and present what features are and go forward from here. But this will provide separate access and equitable access for all users. The need of the project. Like I said, we're going to provide sidewalks and safe areas to walk, because currently you have to walk in the street. We're going to improve the visibility at the intersection of Long Rifle and Little Turtle Way. We're going to decrease traffic delays in the area. One of the things we've noted going through the course of the project is the commute delays going southbound to the interchange. This project will also provide for the forecasted growth of the region. One of these things we wanted to highlight was this project is not alone. There are a lot of other projects in the area. And on this slide, all the red projects are the ones that are hosted by Public Service. The ones that are the black line are Rec and Parks. As you can see that we have Little Turtle Way that is right here on the slide. This is the project we're talking about today. But if you look at other projects that have been in the area, Some are completed, some are actually commencing. We have Hamilton Road over here where we actually added roundabouts and reconstructed it from the interchange to the south. We have a project that's active right now, which referred to as Hamilton A, and this is basically from this intersection. I think it's Parks Edge. No, I'm going to get it wrong now, but all the way down to Morse Road, and we're widening that road to 5 lanes. We're also looking at the street, and again, all these roads we're talking about, we're always adding sidewalks and shared use paths. We're looking at widening this one and adding sidewalks and shared use paths from 161 up to Central College. There's currently construction out here on Hamilton. We call it the Hamilton extension, and we just awarded another contract to extend Hamilton even further to the north. We're doing intersection improvements at Central College and Ulrey, and we're also doing intersection improvements with sidewalk shared use path at Dublin Granville and Ulrey Road. Little Turtle is one part of this network. When we're building projects and we're looking to improve area, we're not only looking at improving that one location, we're looking at building a redundant, resilient system for travel, because this area is still growing. We're still building it to those forecasted needs. One other project that we're proud to announce today is there's also a shared use path that's being worked on by Rec and Parks, and it has committed funding to actually tie in here to the Little Turtle area, and it is going to go through some connection, and this literally just got awarded. It's starting the design process to get over to the Allen Creek Trail. So in addition to our project, it's going to be adding shared use path down to the interchange and sidewalks. You're going to have another link over here to get you over to Allen Creek. And again, the goal would be to connect to Glendon Woods through another project in the future. So I just wanted to go through and highlight what is going on with this project, the regional projects, and I'm going to turn it over to Jim Pike to talk about the project overview.
Thank you, James. I'm going to spend the next few minutes here going over what's being incorporated into the project and maybe why we're doing some of the design features. Overall, this project's going to provide a multitude of enhancements for the entire corridor, all the way from State Route 161 on the north side to Firewater Lane. One of these elements would be reconstructing Little Turtle Way. This will be done to accommodate kind of a complete street to serve bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorists. And this is in line with Columbus's complete streets practices to make our facilities more multimodal accommodating. Constructing Little Turtle Way, one of the reasons for that is we go out and we assess, our infrastructure management group goes out and assesses the condition of every street in the city of Columbus. It's on a rating from, I believe, 0 to 100, obviously 100 being a perfect street. The northbound lane of Little Turtle Way was rated a 59, and the southbound lane was most recently rated a 53. This puts those streets in a classification of poor. The project will also construct a roundabout at Long Rifle to improve traffic flow and increase safety and decrease speeds. And I'll go a little bit more later on as to some of the other elements of why a roundabout is a great preferred option out here. Next slide, James. As most of you know, traffic does back up, particularly in the morning commute, all the way past Long Rifle. We'll be constructing a new traffic signal at State Route 161. This will help us manage those operations and reduce those queues. We'll also be adding new sidewalks and a shared use path to promote walking and bicycling. Currently, there are no sidewalks or a shared use path along Little Turtle Way. And we'll also ensure emergency access for EMS and fire services. We've had multiple conversations with members of the City of Columbus Department of Public Safety regarding how to reduce response times during and after construction. And we've discussed with them how the roundabout is designed to effectively help emergency vehicles navigate through that intersection. Next slide, James. We're going to be adding street lights up along the entire corridor to improve the visibility and safety, particularly necessary at the roundabout for that component. We're going to be adding 100 new trees and landscapes throughout this corridor. They're going to be removing about 21 trees, but we've got in the plans to add 130 trees in its place. And this far exceeds our City of Columbus executive order on street trees. So that replaces them at about a 6-to-1 ratio. In addition, we're also going to update the storm system with new sewers and a stormwater basin to help effectively manage stormwater. Currently, this corridor does not have a basin that allows stormwater to be collected and released at lower rates to help mitigate flooding. Next slide, James. So this slide right here gives an overview of the entire project. It may be very similar to what had been presented at public meetings. I kind of want to go over a little bit of what's represented in here. Obviously, the black, as you can see throughout the corridor, is the new reconstructed roadway. The orange is on the east side. There is the shared use path. The gray on the west side would be new sidewalk all the way from 161 heading up Long Rifle and going all the way down to Firewater Lane. The area that looks it would be a brighter green would be areas that are splitter islands and the center island of the roundabout. Anticipation is those have the opportunity to have some type of landscape features in them. South of Long Rifle, you can see it's kind of a greenish area. That'll be our stormwater basin for that. That all the stormwater from this project will be diverted into that area. And then the kind of off green color there is the existing northbound roadway. This roadway will be removed in its entirety during the project. It will be probably used while this road is being built, however, as part of our maintenance of traffic plan. One of the things I want to talk about in this project, as you'll see with the lane configuration. So I think it's important to note that from 161 to Long Rifle, there will be 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. All right, and that will match what's existing out there right now. All right, and so there's no changes in that. You can see the new traffic signal that will go in right there at the intersection. As you know now, when you're heading southbound, you must yield to all those cars going northbound and then heading west onto that 161 ramp. The signal will give opportunity for individuals then to be able to make that turn or to go straight, on their own without having to yield. There'll be new striping done on the bridge to help with lane assignments. You can see the existing northbound lanes that will be removed. All the area south of Long Rifle Road, there where the stormwater basin, that area will all be owned by the City of Columbus. And it'll be used so that Department of Public Utilities can get in there and to maintain that basin. You can see a 10-foot shared use path that will be connected. The idea is that this will then set it up for any kind of future connectivity. We know that there are future plans to provide access across 161 and ultimately tie into a shared use path to get folks to Glendon Woods Metro Park. The sidewalk on the west side is a 5-foot sidewalk. The portion that you're kind of seeing here was added later. Judd will talk a little bit about that. Was added to the project. In addition, then you can also see the new roundabout that we have at the intersection. Some of the reasons behind the roundabouts, You're seeing them all over the region now. Columbus is building them. There's probably over 70 of them in Franklin County alone. We've known that roundabouts reduce the severe crashes by over 85%. In addition, they're also known to help reduce speeds through a corridor. This particular roundabout right here, there's an item that gets analyzed. It's called the fastest path. It's basically how fast somebody could drive through that roundabout. We try to keep those speeds under 30 miles an hour. This roundabout accomplishes that. In many cases, a lot of the movements are even less than 25 miles an hour. Roundabouts also reduce a significant number of conflict points. A traditional intersection will have 32 different conflict points of which an accident can occur. Roundabouts such as this, that gets reduced to about 8 conflict points. It also eliminates the type of crashes. I'm not going to say a roundabout does not entirely eliminate a crash. Distracted drivers, people that are not going to follow the rules of the road, so to speak, on yielding when entering a roundabout will ultimately lead to fender benders. But it eliminates head-on collisions. Any type of accident you might have would be more of a glancing type accident. And so that's what we're hoping. And as far as pedestrians crossing, when a pedestrian crosses, when they go through the first, such as, let's just say you're crossing on the northern end of the roundabout, trying to go east to west, a pedestrian will come up here and will only have to look to their left. And once they have the clear, they cross into a refuge area. And then once they get to there, then that person only has to look to the right. Once it's clear, they'll be able to continue across. So they are much safer intersections with that. I'd like to continue on, James. Thank you. Some other elements, again, the reconstructed street, if I can go back to that. So from Derringer Road up to Long Rifle, if you're heading southbound, that will still be 2 lanes of traffic in that direction. So basically from Derringer to 161, it'll be 2 lanes southbound as you have now. As you get northbound, there'll be 1 lane of traffic there, but as you can see on the Double Eagle, there'll be a right turn lane. So effectively that acts as 2 lanes. And then as you get farther down, as you're heading towards Blue Jacket, you'll see a dedicated left turn lane, which is currently out there today. So there's currently the striping on that section of road is 2 lanes, of which that left lane is striped as a left turn only lane. So there is not much of a difference. It's not 2 lanes all the way, but effectively this will handle all the traffic that is anticipated now and in the future. You can see the new sidewalks continue on the west side, all the way down to Firewater Lane. There is a new shared use path as well. One of the other items that we'd like to note is when working with public safety, there were concerns as to what if something were to happen and an emergency vehicle can't get around. We've actually designed the shared use path as an enhanced section, which basically has the same buildup as the roadway. So in an absolute emergency situation, if needed, emergency vehicles will be able to use that shared use path to get to the north. And then we also have the areas that show the northbound lanes being removed there. Those areas will be turned over. They will be vacated right of way. One item we want to point out that during this whole process, the city of Columbus will be acquiring over 2.5 acres of new property for this project, and we will only be vacating under 9/10 of an acre. So the city of Columbus will be netting about over 1.5 acres of land, some of that used for green space, some of that not. If you look on the west side of the roundabout, You can see that same color green. That used to be the existing road right there. You can see that will be taken out, and that will be a kind of a green space area there. And I think that's pretty much all I have at this point, James.
Thank you. So I wanted to go over and address the planning cost comparison. When we're looking at projects and going through kind of a build, no build situation, what Jim has just talked about with, this project is a reconstruction. When we did the cost estimate for it, it came out to roughly $5.5 million with about $90,000 in right of way. When we looked at rebuilding the road in kind, and this includes us applying complete street features, so us putting in sidewalks, shared use paths, the road configured as it is was roughly $6.5 million in construction with almost $400,000 in right-of-way costs. So again, not that that's one factor when we're looking at it, it does help us determine where we're going to put our effort in designing something. We're looking to be very cost effective. We always have to design with maintenance and operations in mind. It's one of the key things we do. We work with our traffic operations department. We work with our maintenance department. We want to put something in that is within their ability to maintain. And we're always looking to optimize and make good, efficient use of project money. And this was one way we came up with this project for it to be a reconstruction. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Judd Hines and let him go over the public involvement process.
All right, thank you, James. And before I get into the specific public involvement process for Little Turtle, I just wanted to talk about the public involvement process in general that public service follows. So on every single one of our projects that we are designing, we have some type of public involvement. And the how much public involvement, it typically depends on the scope and size of the project. So we could have a small sidewalk project in which all we do is send out public notification letters to the adjacent parcels. As projects become more complex and more sizable, then we start having public involvement meetings. And then for our larger projects, such as this one, we end up having two public involvement meetings. So the purpose of public involvement is to try to make sure we have the community engagement. We want the public to always be aware of what is being proposed and provide feedback to us so that we can make sure that we have a successful project. Typically, if it's just public service, we're looking at safety improvements, traffic improvements, those type of improvements. But the community and the residents in the area always have a better feel for what the needs and desire of the community are. So we're always looking for that feedback and try to incorporate those improvements as much as possible on projects. Excuse me. So back to the Little Turtle project in particular here. So our very first public involvement meeting occurred back on August 29th of 2019. So nearly 2 years ago. It's kind of hard to believe. And you can see in the picture there, that was pre-COVID. So we all went out to Honduras College and met and had very good participation. 118 participants signed into the meeting, which is excellent. We received a lot of comments from this meeting. And then we're able to start incorporating those comments into the design. So the first design we presented here was, I'll call it just kind of the nuts and the bolts. It's included all the traffic improvements, the safety improvements, didn't have all the bells and whistles that we get to ultimately on a project, but that's where we want the public involvement or the public's input to help us determine what is best out there, where the sidewalks need to be in the shared use paths and trees, landscaping, all those sort of things. So the first public involvement meeting, I would say, was very, very successful. Very good participation. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So after that first public involvement meeting, we continued to have conversations with the public. I think at this time is when we started coordinating with the Little Turtle Civic Association. And then it was nearly a year later on September 1st of 2020 when we met with the Civic Association with just their board members and other members. The purpose of this meeting was twofold. One, we were preparing for our actual public meeting, so we wanted to give them a heads up on everything that we had changed in the project and what the project looked like at that time and get their feedback. The other thing we wanted to do at this meeting was discuss some of the concerns that they had. So after the first public meeting, the Civic Association had provided us with a list of concerns that they had. So during this meeting, we spent a good majority of the time addressing all of their comments one by one and making sure that we responded to each and every one of those concerns. And then the last portion of the meeting, we save for questions and answers. Go to the next thing. So we did that in anticipation of the second public involvement meeting. So October 28th, 2020 is when we held the second meeting. It was held via WebEx due to COVID, and I should say the Civic Association meeting was the same format. So during this meeting, we presented our, I won't say final plans, but plans that were very close to being final, and also right-of-way plans that were very close to being final. We had not started any right-of-way acquisition at this time, but we were preparing to do so. So during this meeting, we talked through a lot of the major concerns, gave the public updates on what had been updated in the project, mainly through their questions and comments. As a result of this particular public meeting, we received 188 questions, and that was both during the meeting and then comment forms and responses we received after the meeting. This particular meeting, we had 117 participants that have logged into the meeting, which again is excellent participation. I wish all of our projects had this amount of feedback from the community, because that just provides for better projects. Go ahead and go to the next one. So that was the timeline of the public involvement. I want to go through here some of the outcomes. So through both of the public meetings and then just other comments we received in between the meetings, altogether we received 388 public comments on this project. So that's a tremendous amount of public comments. A lot of them obviously were repeat comments from different residents, but a lot of comments. We also received 127 emails on this project and 7 311 requests. The last item there, and I'll give Kevin Thomas, our project manager, a lot of credit. He has spent an immeasurable amount of time on the phone talking to the residents in this area, talking with the Little Turtle Civic Association. So I know Kevin has spent a good deal of time, basically from that first public meeting all the way through now, talking with residents and trying to give them updates on projects and address any concerns they may have. Good. So hopefully everyone can read this. It's a little small, but these next two slides, I just wanted to go over some of the comments we received and how we have addressed those comments. And I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but these are just some of the larger comments that we thought it would be good to run through quickly. So the first one there is tree protection plan for the Little Turtle oak tree. So at the northern limits of the project, there is a very large oak tree, and it became very, very obvious to us at the first public meeting that is important to the community. So we have added tree preservation fencing to our plans so that during construction of the Little Turtle project, we are not impacting the roots or the integrity of this tree. I do want to point out, though, just to be clear, that this tree is not on public right-of-way. It is on private property. So while we are protecting it with our project and preserving it, we can't say that exactly what will happen to that tree in the future, but I can say that we are protecting it with our project. The next couple items there are related to landscaping. So, during both public meetings and also talking with the Civic Association, landscaping obviously became very important to us. So a couple of the features we added, one is at the entry to the community. So kind of across from the fire station, there's a little bit of an entry feature there now with a nice stone block that says Little Turtle. So we're going to incorporate that same entry feature kind of in that same area. It'll be on the east side of the road, but it will, provide a nice entry feature for the community. Another item is the center island of the roundabout. So we have added landscaping to the center island to try to make the entire area look a little nicer. As Jim mentioned, we have, I think it's approximately 130 trees proposed for the entire project. So there should be a lot of landscaping in this area. Jim mentioned it, so I won't get into it in detail, but the sidewalk that's on the east side, I'm sorry, the west side of Little Turtle, south of Long Rifle, that was added directly because of the public meeting. Originally, we didn't really see much of a need to walk to the fire station, but through public comment, we realized that that's a polling place and folks would like that. It also makes a nice loop from the sidewalk over to the shared use path. So that's been added to the project. I'm going to skip down to the third bullet from the bottom, and Jim also hit on this a little bit, but emergency access to the larger community became, I shouldn't say became, but was brought up as a concern, not only during construction, but also after construction in the permanent condition. So we've addressed that by beefing up the SUP to allow emergency access, and that to utilize that SUP to access the neighborhood. And then through conversations with fire, we also made them aware of another access that is from Long Rifle to the north along, it'll tie into Firewater. It's a part of the new development occurring in that area, but it also provides a good, I'll say, backdoor access in emergency situations. The last two bullets there are associated with pedestrian connectivity, and I know James talked a little bit about that with what we're doing in coordination with Rec and Parks and Metro Parks. But during the public meetings, a lot of the community said, hey, it's great that we're providing shared use path along Little Turtle Way, but it doesn't really take us anywhere. We want the shared use path to extend, or sidewalk to extend more further into the community, both along Cambria Way and Blue Jacket Road. So now that that's been brought to our attention, and that's a desire of the community, that's something that we are evaluating here in public service. And I won't promise when, but hopefully one day we can extend that pedestrian connection to complete that loop all the way around Cambria Way and Blue Jacket. Another pedestrian item, and I believe Jim also hit on this one, is the connection to Glendon Woods Metro Park. So obviously, we're putting a nice shared use path along Little Turtle Way, but the southern limits of it would be an ideal connection to the Glendon Woods Metro Park. So because the limiting factor there is the bridge over 161. Obviously, the width of that bridge and the number of lanes there is a constraint to try to get to the Metro Park. So because we were already talking to ODOT in connection to all the traffic in this area and doing our traffic study, and they are looking at this whole interchange, in general for any potential improvements they can make. We had the conversations with them about potentially extending that shared use path across the bridge in the future if they were to ever widen that bridge with any type of interchange work. So they now know that that is a desire of the community, the desire of the city as well to make that connection. So, if and when that interchange work ever comes to fruition, there will definitely be an SUP connection to the Metro Park. I will say with that, there's also another project that I believe James mentioned down on Dublin Granville Road that will also help with that connection, not just to the Metro Park, but also to make the pedestrian connection over to the Hamilton Road area. I'm not going to hit on all these, but just a few others. Improve traffic flow in and especially out of Little Turtle Way. So that became obvious in the public meeting that your residents were concerned with, predominantly getting out of the community with that morning rush. So with the improvements we're making, both at the traffic signal and then with the roundabout, there should be an improvement there in that traffic flow, especially in the morning rush hour. Skipping on down here, streetlights. We received a number of comments from residents about incorporating streetlights into the project. Obviously, there's not enough streetlights on Little Turtle Way today, so we will be incorporating or adding streetlights to the project. It'll be safer for both the traveling public and the pedestrians. And then the last one, as far as just MOT, some citizens had a concern about MOT during construction. Fortunately, the way the roadway system is currently set up, it allows us to utilize the northbound lanes during construction, and then most of the construction will be over on the southbound lane. So should be able to provide a pretty good maintenance traffic plan during construction to keep things moving during that time frame. I believe that's it. So I will pass it back over to James and to Patricia.
Okay, perfect. So we went over the project in detail. We're trying to address a lot of the questions that have come up consistently through the project. The two slides Judd covered at the end really highlight how we tried to tailor this to a lot of the concerns of the community and address things to make sure we, again, Judd said it, so we have a successful project. It's one of the things we value in the department. We want to build something and make it better. And again, make sure that we can maintain it and operate it. There's a lot of people that touch projects when we're going through the design and review process. Not only our department, but many other departments in the city look at this to make sure not only will it function, but they can operate and maintain what we're putting out there. So we do represent many different facets in the city when we're coming and presenting just one project. I was going to say it's somewhere between 40 to 50 people look through our plans and make comments to make sure we're doing the best thing we can for all the assets we have out there. So thank you for letting us participate and present this today. I'll turn it back over to Councilmember Favor.
Thank you so much for that presentation. We'll go ahead and move on to the question and answer portion of the hearing. At this point, let me turn it over to my colleague, Councilmember Remy, to start with questions. Councilmember Remy?
Thank you so much, Councilmember Favor. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today. This question goes back to James and Jim and Judd. Your slide there talked a little bit about potentially working with ODOT, et cetera, et cetera. However, it seems like you failed to take into account the Morpsey project that would connect Little Turtle with across the way, hence getting over to Glendon Woods and down to the path, because that is slated for construction in 2024. Did I miss something?
Sorry about that. You're referring to both connections, so the trail connection and the future connection on the bridge. So the funding and I guess when I was talking about committed funding. So the committed funding is for the trail connection, which is down near the creek. The one on the bridge is, as Judd was alluding to, we're going to have that space, that shoulder, which will connect, but I think there's still a desire to have an improved facility across the bridge. So, but I don't believe that's funded as of yet.
That's correct. So there's going to be two connections ultimately. The one that I was mentioning is actually on Little Turtle Way, and that is unfunded. That's would be with the future ODOT project.
I think you guys need to check with Brad Westall.
But I was going to say there's another connection which is over by Big Walnut Creek, and that is the funded project.
My understanding is that you guys need to check with Brad Westall. My understanding is that that funding has been provided through the Morpsey grant, and may not be over the bridge, but it may be under the freeway. So I think you guys ought to check into that. I want to make sure you guys are coordinating on this project, because the left hand needs to be talking to the right hand. And I don't want to see a project like this move forward and then miss out on opportunities to collaborate and make sure that this is an experience that is good for the people of Little Turtle. So I would recommend that you have that conversation with Brad Westall sooner rather than later. And I sent you an email just now in regards to that.
Thank you.
For a minute.
Can you talk a little bit more about the process for how the department selects which streets are in need of resurfacing or reconstruction?
Do you want to cover the piece in line?
Yeah, so I think it's on about a 3-year cycle. Every street in the city goes through a process where it is evaluated, and we call this a pavement condition number. Some use pavement condition rating. That is used to assess whether or not a street needs to be resurfaced. And we'll go back and see how long it's been since it has been resurfaced. Sometimes during this process, they determine that a street just needs to be maybe crack sealed or slurry sealed, depending on that, and that'll buy some time. Ultimately, though, what this leads to is sometimes you start seeing failures in pavement, and then we start to do a little bit of a deeper dive into what's causing that. And a lot of times that means that the what we see that looks nice during a resurfacing is usually the top 1.5 inches, maybe 3 inches of pavement. But really, a pavement section is made up of about another 9 to 12 inches underneath that, and that's where the failures occur. When you see a pothole, that's usually a bad subbase that water is getting down into there and is going to cause problems. When you get to that point, that's when you start to have to determine whether or not the road needs to be reconstructed. Having this rated in poor condition and that the age of this roadway is approaching 50 years, that's a long time for a roadway. And you can go in and resurface it, but you're probably going to be out there more times, more often resurfacing it by going in and replacing it at this point. We've now bought another 50 years for this roadway.
So one of the slides you acknowledged that it was around about $1 million cheaper to reconstruct versus rebuilding. And in your explanation just now, is that part of the factoring, right, and making that determination to reconstruct versus rebuild and resurfacing?
It is part of the factor. Just we're always looking for stormwater management too. It's one of the things when we disturb the earth, we have to mitigate more, and consolidating the road to one roadbed allows us to put in, I guess, mitigate less. So we're always looking at, again, optimizing our footprint, using as little geography as we can to facilitate movement of people. So we're always trying to lower our costs. And again, this goes back to future maintenance and operations too. The other thing when we're reconstructing that doesn't exist out the other day, we'll actually put in drainage under the roadbed. So we'll actually put in better facilities to just take the water away and it'll give longer life to the road. So this factors all in to that reconstruction effort.
And is that new technology, is that feature already incorporated into Little Turtle Way right now, that ability to drain?
You're talking about the under drains?
Yes.
Well, they could be there. They might be blocked. That's part of the curb condition, and the curbs out there are in really poor shape. I'd say all of them have decracking. They're in really, I'd say beyond poor shape, actually.
And I think it's also important to acknowledge the slide that depicted the regional growth and improvements that's currently occurring both by the Department of Public Service and the Department of Recreation and Parks. I've received a lot of feedback that Little Turtle Way was handpicked as a street that would get this reconstruction. But this is part of an overall regional approach to investing in our infrastructure. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's very correct. We want to make sure when we're improving something, it is a network. For things that are working, we might have growth in other areas where people will shift their traffic patterns. And even in the forecasting of the traffic, we're taking that into account and trying to build it to the right size. And again, make sure the operations work.
Many people are hesitant about roundabouts and even may not understand exactly how they work. So can you please speak to us about how this is truly a traffic calming measure and how it is useful in high traffic areas?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So I will say roundabouts have been used as a countermeasure for safety. We're starting to see more and more because, again, they reduce the severity of crashes. But as far as traffic calming, again, they're designed to slow vehicles down as they approach the intersection. One of the slides, if you saw, there were we call them splitter islands. Those are designed to, as folks enter that helps slow cars down as they approach the intersection, as they approach the roundabout, so that when they're entering, you're coming in that roundabout at a speed of around 20 miles an hour. And this is after you've yielded to cars that are already in the roundabout. So it's all based on gaps, and it'll give you an opportunity when you see that you enter the roundabout. Much safer, and it helps with the flow. When you see them in town, there was no signal here, but there were stop conditions where people had to stop all the time. So on Long Rifle, if you're coming up to that roundabout and there's no cars coming, you don't have to stop. You will yield and you will enter the roundabout in that case, as opposed to stopping, looking across the way. So now you don't even have to wait for a vehicle that's, say, heading eastbound on Long Rifle, right? If I'm coming in, they're going to be making their movement. They're not going to impact me entering that intersection now and traversing around that way. So they do help with the flow of traffic tremendously. As you can see in the one slide, we actually showed as you're heading northbound, the right lane will actually be kind of a dedicated right to get you onto Long Rifle heading east. That again will help with that traffic flow right there, so they do not have to yield to other cars in that direction.
What is the alternative to a roundabout? And for this community?
The area does not, this intersection does not warrant a traffic signal at Long Rifle. The volumes just aren't there to warrant a signal at Long Rifle and Little Turtle Way. The other condition you would have then would be basically a stop condition. You'd either have to convert it to a four-way stop if you truly wanted to give other cars an opportunity to enter, or you'd have what you have today, which is north-southbound has free access, and if you're going east and west, you would have to yield and wait for that opportunity. The roundabout basically allows that flow of traffic more freely, and folks won't have to sit there for a long period of time. And this will all coincide then also with the new signal at 161, where that now will give all those southbound cars, they'll have opportunities now to make a movement without having to yield to that northbound traffic.
So the traffic of Little Turtle is busy enough to that a stop sign would not be an effective tool to be used in the community, but not busy enough that would necessitate the installation of a traffic signal right there at Long Rifle, I believe, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. This plan also appears to reduce 4 lanes of traffic down to 2 lanes. Now, I know that you all spoke about this, but this has also been a sticking point and a lot of the feedback that my office has received. So once again, can you talk about the planned lanes of traffic and the intended impact?
Yeah, again, from Derringer to 161, as you're going southbound, that'll be 2 lanes of traffic heading in that direction. As you approach the roundabout, there'll be 2 lanes, so cars could stay in their lane and they enter the roundabout that way, and then you continue hitting to 161. So that's going to be the same. All right. And then as you're heading northbound, again, we're going to have 2 lanes of traffic as you're going northbound to Long Rifle. As you get closer to the roundabout, one will be a dedicated right turn movement, which we see a lot of cars that are going northbound and turning right onto Long Rifle heading eastbound. So that movement will still be there. The other movement will then also take folks through the roundabout and either allows them to go west on Long Rifle, or they'll be able to head northbound and continue on Little Turtle Way. There are also turn lanes that are also being provided in the northbound direction, one into Double Eagle. So in a sense, when those cars are making the right turn lane, cars that want to continue on will have the ability, they won't have to yield to a car turning right. They'll be able to continue on with a separate lane. And then as you get closer to Double Eagle, again, there's a dedicated left turn lane. But a lot of cars that are making that left turn, they'll be able to do that, but there'll also be a second lane that cars will be able to basically get around and continue northbound up to Firewater Lane in Cambria. So, you know, we feel that the number of lanes, while it doesn't look like 2 lanes in each direction the entire length, a majority of it still has 2 lanes, and with turn lanes, those effectively add as a second lane to mitigate traffic flow.
If I can add to the volume of traffic out here could warrant down to 2 lanes. It's actually the queuing is why we're looking at the extra lanes. So the fact that you're stopping the vehicles, it has more impact on or more need to actually have the 2 spaces so we can like turn the vehicles and get them through. But the volumes alone, we'd be looking at road diets in an area like this in other parts of the city. Here, based on the spacing of the intersection, we need that space to store the vehicles. So I just want to point that out. I know Jim's going through and contrasting the 4 lanes. We have them in both situations, but it's the queuing we're really looking at here. So but that might be a concept that's a little harder to grasp, but that is the basis of it.
Understood. Just for clarification, in the actual roundabout itself, there are 2 lanes, and one of those lanes will turn out onto whatever corresponding street is going to be, correct?
Yes. Well, so when you're heading northbound, there'll be 2. When you're heading southbound, there will be. Thank you, James. There'll be if you look up on the right side there, away from James.
I'm going to share it. It's harder to talk about it than just to see it. If I can share again.
There you go.
Sure.
So if you look at the roundabout there, you can see the 2 lanes of traffic as you're approaching the roundabout heading southbound. Those 2 lanes, if there's 2 cars there, they'll both be able to continue through the roundabout together and continue on all the way down to 161. All right, Long Rifle currently has 1 lane in each direction. That will hold true with the roundabout. So as you can see, you got 1 lane, as James is pointing there. You'll be able to circle the roundabout and even continue on Long Rifle, or coming the other way, it'll be 1 lane as well. So that hasn't changed at all. As you head northbound from 161, you can see that whole stretch there is 2 lanes of traffic. As you get up to the roundabout, the left lane will actually go into the roundabout and permit you to either continue on Little Turtle Way, or you'll be able to go westbound on Long Rifle. The right lane will then be used just to allow folks to go eastbound on Long Rifle. Currently, that's what we're seeing traffic. What our numbers are showing now is that cars are going north and they're turning right. So this will allow that. If you go to the next slide, so does that answer your question? The roundabout can be classified as we would call it a 2x1. So a 1x1 roundabout is basically single lane in each direction. In a sense, this is a 2x1 roundabout, which means you have 2 lanes kind of coming in and exiting, and then the other legs have 1 lane entering and exiting.
Understood. So let's talk, if we could stay here on this slide. In the case of an emergency on the roundabout, how else will residents or EMS vehicles get in and out of the community? I know that you discussed, you highlighted, and if we're looking at the slide, I believe the orange is the shared use path, which has been, will be built in order to accommodate an emergency vehicle. But what happens if it happens inside the roundabout?
So a lot of times during roundabouts, and I live in a community where roundabouts are everywhere. I can't go to the grocery store without going through a roundabout. If you're talking, council member, you're talking about if there's an accident inside the roundabout?
Yes.
Yes. So if that's the case, many times if the vehicles they're told to, exit the roundabout. Or if you see the kind of the darker orange in the center, okay, I think one thing to note there, that's what we call a truck apron. So when you have a large vehicle or an emergency vehicle, such as a large fire truck, that is actually a navigable, a traversable area that is designed for trucks, designed for large emergency vehicles to use to get up on to get through the roundabout. Standard practice, if an emergency vehicle were coming through here, everybody's supposed to yield to the emergency vehicle, right, and move out of the way. In the case of the roundabout, everybody's supposed to kind of either go through or stop. If need be, the emergency vehicle could always go in a clockwise direction if they had to, and get through that way. Or again, they could take use of the truck apron that's also provided there. That area right there, the truck apron, I believe, is 8 feet wide, and the roadway is about 18 feet wide. Is that right, Judd? Somewhere about that. So you've got a traversable area that is almost 26 feet in width just on that section, which would be equivalent to what we call a courtesy street, which is two-way traffic with parking. That's about what we have available all the way around the roundabout. And on the west side, with the 2 lanes and the truck apron, you have over 40 feet of area that could be used for emergency vehicles.
Yeah, and I would just add, we've met with the fire department a couple times and discussed this roundabout and, the entrance and exit. Obviously, this is the main way in and out of the community. And they told us, like, we deal with all the hypothetical situations, the what ifs, the worst case scenario, the thing that we think never is going to happen, we have to assume it's going to happen. And when they looked at this, and we made some adjustments for them with some widths of the splitter islands and things to allow them more room. And at the end of the day, they said, we're happy with it. We are confident that no matter where an accident occurs, we can get through here. And as Jim said, if they need to go the wrong direction through a roundabout, they can do that. If they turn their lights on, they can do just about whatever they want. So I think after our meetings with them, they were happy with the final design, and they aren't concerned about getting through the roundabout to some emergency situation.
And someone did provide a accident percentage with roundabouts. Was it in the 80%? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, well, what the number was, council member, is that roundabouts reduce severe accidents by 85%.
Got it. Let's address the large tree at the entrance of Little Turtle. I know that you all acknowledged that there were going to be measures taken to preserve the tree and not to disturb the roots, with the acknowledgement that the city of Columbus does not own the land that the tree sits on. So what are those measures that's going to be taken to ensure that the tree is preserved to the best of its ability?
So we have, I'll call it tree preservation fence, but it's basically construction fence that wraps all the way around the tree, staying outside the, I'll say the canopy of the tree, because that's predominantly where the roots are. So that construction equipment cannot get into that area and potentially damage the roots of the tree.
And beyond that, we're going to have staff out there supervising the construction, and we'll make sure when we're out there removing the road bed that they're not digging any deeper. We're not going to have any root intrusion. And like Judd said, we'll probably paint it off around the drip line or the canopy line of the tree to ensure that. And when we're working on areas and trees of interest, we always bring in the city forester just to make sure when we excavate an area that we're not doing anything obtrusive. So we work a lot with the forester just to make sure. So I know this is going to be specifically highlighted through the execution of the construction plans.
Thank you. And I believe that you indicated that around 20-ish trees were going to be removed and 100 would be planted or replacing those 20 trees. Why are we removing trees?
The trees that are being removed, the majority of them are within the limits of the roadway that you see there. So obviously the roadway is going to be in the north and southbound lanes will now be in where the southbound lanes are. So that roadway is getting wider just because of the roadway limits and also because of the sidewalk and the shared use path. So those existing trees are within the limits of the construction there for the roadway, shared use path, or even for the basin that you can see.
And the location of the 100 trees that are going to be planted, has that been decided with community input?
We have, so for about 100 of the trees, they're street trees. So they're going in between the sidewalk and between the sidewalk and the edge of the street, and also the shared use path and the edge of the street. So the majority of those are set, I'd say, in the tree lawn where we typically plant trees within the right of way. We do have additional trees that a location has not been designated, and that's where we were going to look for the community input, specifically Little Turtle Civic Association. But that would not be until near the end of construction, once everything's kind of coming together, and it's easier at that point in time to pick the best locations for these additional trees.
And we'd be working with them actively during the construction project for siting and placing, because again, when you're showing people a plan and it's different than actually being out in the field, seeing the trees and seeing where you'd place them. It's a totally different impact. We plan them with them, but we'd be out there with paint, marking them on the ground, trying to visualize where they would go.
Can you talk about the traffic study? At what point in the process for planning this project was this traffic study conducted?
I believe a traffic study was conducted in 2016 on the overall operations in the area. And again, we've been working with ODOT on, we have to go through a certified traffic process where they go through and they actually look at the traffic operations on 161 and forecast traffic for 20 years of growth. And we actually designed the 30th highest hour, which means we're trying to right size our design in the sense of what turn lanes we need, what type of traffic control we're going to have. We use this projection. It's actually normalized throughout the state. And it was based on this traffic study is how this area was cited. And then we go through a process, our division of traffic management goes through a process where they'll optimize each intersection to see how it's going to operate, the length of the turn lanes needed, literally down to the cycle length of each signal with how much each green gets, and tries to give enough capacity to every intersection that if the traffic's off, they still have room to adjust it. It's a very conservative process where we give ourselves enough, I guess, wiggle room to optimize that later. The study goes and it's giving you a basis to set up a very accommodating design.
And my last question, we've talked a lot about regional growth, and I'd like for you all to speak about how important this project is to the other work that is occurring currently in the region right now.
So one thing we noted was we were trying to address the AM commutes. So the way and this is probably the best slide I have showing, both the Rec and Park projects and the DPS projects out here. But talking about public service projects, we have traffic out here that uses uses the facilities differently. They have a different AM commute than a PM commute. And that's why we have this AM commute showing up, or these AM queues differently. And people will go down Old Hamilton Road, to get maybe to shopping over on Hamilton down south here, or they'll come in differently depending on AM, PM, just how they use the corridor. We want to make sure when we're designing things from a regional standpoint that we're giving ourselves the opportunity to allow for different, scenarios that could happen as other things develop. Even though we're forecasting to 20 years out, we're going to rerun the model in a couple more years, come back and make sure this project will still be very effective. Even though things could change over here, they could change, and by over here, Hamilton Road, Central College and Ulrey, and Little Turtle, it is part of the system, just how everything operates together. We want to make sure regionally, when designing these, that we are planning for the other projects. We do this together. This is part of that forecasted growth I was talking about. It's all in a Mid-Ohio Regency Planning Commission traffic model that they look at every year. They look at the growth of every community every year and then forecast traffic from it. That's what we're using to make sure there's resiliency and commonness when we're sizing and saying we're putting a left turn lane over here at Dublin Groundville Ulrey, that it's going to function in conjunction with Little Turtle. Because as talking to some of the residents out here, they use both of these intersections depending on the time of day. They'll travel this corridor differently for commutes, for errands and whatnot. So we're really confident that what we're putting in here not only is going to work for the location, but it will work for the region as things change in this area.
Thank you for that. We will now move into the public testimony. Oh, my apologies. Councilmember Remy has another question.
My apologies for that. Just a question, the discussion about extending I think it was the shared use path out to Firewater. Was a request by the community? Am I correct about that?
It was beyond Firewater, around Cambria and Blue Jacket.
Okay. And do we have a cost associated with that at this point?
At this point, we do not.
Okay. I did confirm that the MORPC funding does include underneath, so maybe we can use some shared resources to make that happen on this project. Secondly, tell me about the sidewalks that exist today along Little Turtle. Or are there any?
There are none.
I was just making a point. So I feel that that's a good addition in this project, and certainly provides for walkability, which is something that we're trying to do throughout the city. Thank you for your time, and look forward to getting the responses back in the extension.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy. We will now move into the public testimony portion of the hearing. I do want to acknowledge that we've received 3 pieces of written testimony regarding this legislation that will be entered into the public record. We have 10 individuals signed up to provide both virtual and live testimony on the pending legislation this evening. I will ask that each speaker state their name and any organization that they represent, and you will have 3 minutes to speak before you hear the buzzer. First up, joining us via WebEx, we have Steve Crane. Mr. Crane, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks for having the public hearing today. My name is Steve Crane. I'm a new resident of 1 year at High Point, the community that's been added onto by the developer. It's in coincides with the country club, the pool, and what is, very interesting to me is I was a lifeguard out here in 1976, and it's the same roads. And I travel for a living about 800 to 1,000 miles a week. And when I come home, I still feel it's the most nerve-wracking 90 seconds of driving. When you go into Little Turtle, you don't have that going out, you don't have that traffic light and it's coming and stopping, but coming back in, the cars are going fast, they're trying to merge, everybody's in a hurry to get home. And we all know that roundabout is maxed out at 30, 35 miles an hour. It will then, be able to ease their way into it. But more importantly, it's very dangerous September, October, November, January with young ladies trying to walk, no lighting, no sidewalks, and, was never taken into account 50 years ago. So be able to accommodate the traffic, the future growth, manage, the roundabout, beautification of trees, landscaping. It's got my full support, and I look forward to the 19th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Councilmember, do you have any questions for Mr. Crane? Thank you, Mr. Crane, for your testimony this evening. Up next, we have Dan Rako.
Hello, yes, I'm a resident of Little Turtle and just been here 1 year like Mr. Crane. And I think Little Turtle needs these changes. They'll make our community much safer, efficient, and enjoyable. I strongly recommend approval of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rako, for your time and testimony this evening. And joining us from City Hall, we have up first, Joe Motil.
Everybody hear me?
We can hear you.
Great, thank you very much. Joe Motil, 167 West Cook Road, Columbus. This so-called improvement road project started off on the wrong foot from the very beginning. First of all, it's been stated by the city that a traffic study had been done in 2018, now this evening, 2016, in order to somehow justify the project. There's been no cause for alarm regarding accidents or complaints about increased traffic to even perform such a study. And it wasn't until August of 29 the Little Turtle community was even notified that the project was in the works and a public meeting was held. And that meeting and additional meetings have not been held to get input from the community, but for city officials to tell them that this project is going to happen, whether you like it or not. I have even heard that although the money for this project has not been yet approved, the bid package for the lighting has already been released. When questions about who and why directed a traffic study or what the cost of resurfacing and removing and replacing the subgrade in areas where settlement may be occurring have never been really properly answered until a little bit this evening. When residents who know and understand the traffic volumes and patterns of the impacted area better than any city engineer, department official, their voices have been, and voice their facts, their voices have been shot down as if they have no clue as to what they're talking about. And in terms of safety, what about getting a hook and ladder fire truck traveling north from 161 that has to go west on Long Rifle, which will have to circle the roundabout, or any other type of emergency vehicle traveling north just past the roundabout? There is only one traffic lane immediately north of the roundabout traveling north. So if that lane is blocked due to a traffic accident, stalled or stuck vehicle due to icy or snowy conditions, emergency vehicles cannot get through. The lack of any listening to the Little Turtle residents' concerns reminds me of the city ignoring the neighbors of North Linden and what a stupid idea it was to install chicanes. But no, the city installed them anyways and then tore them out, wasting well over $1 million of the taxpayers' money. Is this project going to be such another boondoggle? The proposal will vacate the current 2 northbound lanes as a gift to the developer, allowing him to expand future development into the existing mound area, destroying its trees, green space, which smacks in the face of the city's urban forestation and climate action plans. The project will also increase traffic congestion and slow or even prohibit EMS and ladder trucks from reaching their emergency destinations. Now let's really be honest. 35 years of my experience with City Hall tells me that this project is all about taking care of just one more of more than a dozen cherished and catered to developers of City Hall, one who bought the golf club and boulevard 6 years ago, whose development firm's officers have donated no less than a combined $74,000 to Mayor Ginther and City Council members since 2014, whose development firm was awarded the contract by the city to develop the old Northland Mall site by former Mayor Coleman's handpicked director, and when Councilman Remy was both a member and or president of the Northland Community Council at the time. The same former mayor who now serves as a city registered lobbyist for this Little Turtle developer, who handpicked Council President Shannon Hardin as an appointed city council member, and the same former mayor who must give the blessing of every city council member's appointment or handpick city council running mates. I just want to also state from the engineer what he stated today. The city repaves streets rated as high as 59 all the time. And sidewalks and lighting and trees and trails can all be added regardless of putting in this new roadway project. And the cost of $6.7 million is an entire gut job, which is not required to properly reconstruct the existing roads. And that's not been looked into. Stormwater plans are also a requirement due to new construction, as the engineers know. And broken curbs are not an indication of blocked or damaged drain tiles that are beneath them. And I also like to know what kind of trees are going to be planted. Thank you, Councilwoman Favor.
Thank you, Mr. Motil, for your testimony this evening. Gentlemen, if we could start with the question around EMS travel. I think we already addressed this one, but for the sake of Mr. Motil's testimony.
Yes, again, we've had conversations with the fire department, Department of Public Safety, and the design of the roundabout with that 8-foot truck apron that I mentioned. A hook and ladder will be able to go through this roundabout with no problem.
And if we could speak to the discrepancy around the traffic study. I believe Mr. Motil said that he has heard 2018. Tonight we heard 2016. When was the traffic study conducted?
Let me affirm the date it was conducted. If it's, I might have just misspoke and said 16 instead of 18. Let me affirm that.
Thank you. I'd like to be able to provide that information this evening if possible. If not, we will get that to Mr. Motil as soon as possible. What we've also heard is that this project has been initiated in order to appease one developer. But what we have learned tonight is that this is an effort to address the growth that is occurring in our region, and that has also is working in collaboration with the Parks and Rec Department as well. So I'd like to provide you gentlemen with another opportunity to address the growth that's occurring in our region and why this is necessary.
So like I stated earlier, this is just one project of a network of projects. There's a lot of growth up in this area of Columbus through single family and multifamily homes north on Hamilton Road. That's going to continue. It's actually in the regional traffic model that Mid-Ohio Regency Planning Commission puts forth. So it is a network of one project in a network of projects.
And the trees, what kind of trees will be planted?
I do not know that.
I do not have the specific tree species list in front of me, but I can tell you we coordinated with Rec and Parks. They have an approved list of trees that we use for street trees. So it's through coordination with them, but I can get you that list.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, they're council member. They're actually a combination of 3-inch and 4-inch caliper trees, which exceed the size of trees we would plant in other areas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Motil, for your testimony this evening, and we will ensure to get that clarification on when, in fact, the traffic study was conducted. Up next, we have Darlene Slater.
Hi, I'm Darlene Slater, resident of Little Turtle and a member of the Little Turtle Civic Association. Do have a 3-minute speech, but I've got to point something out on the map before I go any further. So just give me a minute. I don't know if you all can see this. I want to orient this. Okay, yeah. I want to orient this way. This is north, south. This is the firehouse. I hope you can all see this. So the majority of the traffic in the morning during rush hour traffic is going to be coming down the right lane to get on the 161 ramp. So even though there's 2 lanes, everyone's going to be jockeying to get into the right lane to get onto the 161 ramp. This roundabout is extremely small. It would hold about 4 cars. As you can see, it's about 1/3 the width that we have existing the lanes now. We've been told this is the size of the roundabout at 62 and Market Street. So pretty tiny roundabout. If this would be blocked for any reason, you can see, or even if the light is red, you can see quickly. Traffic is going to be stopped up Long Rifle, or I'm sorry, up Little Turtle Way, down Long Rifle, both direction, and then continuing up Little Turtle. The thing I want to point out is, yeah, there's only one.
Darlene, I just want you to know that your time has started.
I'm asking for an additional 30 seconds. This is important.
Your time has started, Darlene.
Your people took an hour.
Yeah, please bear with me. Okay, so,
Because we are still in public hearing, so I really need you all to be respectful or you will leave. We do want to hear Darlene, but you are wasting her time as she's here. It's only fair. She has 3 minutes, we all have 3 minutes. If there are any comments or that you guys want to make, we can do so at the very end, but please just let her have her 3 minutes and we will go from there.
okay, I'm trying to point out the safety issues of this. This is going to be one lane, except there are going to be some curb lanes. So there's going to be immediate turns, immediate right turn here, immediate left turn onto Derringer, immediate right onto Double Eagle, immediate left on the Blue Jacket, immediate right. So during rush hours, all 4 lanes are full of traffic. I'm not kidding. There's 4 lanes. So you're condensing this down to mostly 1 lane. And then, yeah, there's a curb lane to turn, but you're going to be backing traffic up at night, especially when everyone's coming home, back into the roundabout and then down Long Rifle. I want to also point out there's lots of new construction just outside Little Turtle. They all come down Ulrey to Long Rifle, and then they get on the ramp here at 161. I'm talking about Ulrey, Lee Roads, Warner, Central College. They all use this ramp. They don't go to the light on Dublin Granville Road and come out this way. They all cut through because there's no lights. So 75% of the residents live west of here and north of here. So if this roundabout is blocked for any reason, we have no other access in or out of the neighborhood. We are landlocked. We've got nowhere else to go. So that's our concern. If we can't get out, we can't get in, that means emergency equipment can't get in or out. And that's a safety concern. You're putting residents' lives at danger here. Even a minute or two can mean a lot. Okay, thank you. I did have a 3-minute speech, but I'm going to tell you, I'm a longtime resident of Little Turtle. I love it. It's my home. We all want to preserve it. Everybody here, I thank everyone for coming. I know you're all long-term residents. I really appreciate that you care and that you're here. As president of the Little Turtle, I do want to say I was elected to represent the residents, formally declaring that we do oppose the city's proposed roadway plan. We live here. We know it's not going to work. We ask you to work with us. We have an alternate plan. We've offered that multiple times, and we've gotten no feedback from the city. So please work with us. We ask you to reconsider. This is not going to work. We're worried about safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene, for your testimony. Gentlemen, if we could address the concerns around safety and creating a landlocked environment for the residents at Little Turtle.
So this goes to what Jim was referring to earlier. And it has to do with the width on the circulation on the roundabout. He referred to it as a 2-by-1 roundabout, so that the west side of the roundabout is actually going to be 40 feet wide, including the truck apron. So going through here, I guess I'm trying to understand how this is any different than today's condition. So is it vehicles coming from going eastbound and going southbound through the roundabout or through that intersection? If there was a crash there that somehow precluded traffic from getting around, the concern is you'd be backed up. I think you're comparing that to the same condition today. And right now, I think that's a concern that it's highly unlikely that would happen. And going through here we're working a lot with the Department of Safety, trying to make sure we're providing a lot of opportunities to make sure that you can navigate this. If there was a crash that blocked that movement, safety would go up and they could actually bring people over to another lane. They could direct traffic. They could take them backwards through the roundabout. I guess I'm concerned over the thought that this is going to be a less safe condition. The fact that the width of the roundabout is only 4 car lengths, roundabouts don't work on queuing traffic. They work on moving traffic. You should not have a large number of queues through the roundabout. The traffic is going to keep moving. If there's not an accident there, it will flow. When you get down to the interchange, there's going to be 2 right turn lanes. This is going to allow you to sort yourself out to go to 161 or 270. It's going to also be operated with a signal, which our traffic management center is going to be able to control the timing of that signal. They're going to monitor the intersection, and they'll be able to adjust timing to meet the needs to actually get people through their AM commute and get them on the freeway or get them south onto Old Drummond and Granville.
Who does the monitoring and how does that actually work?
So when we put this signal up, we're part of that signal installation is it's going to have a camera or we're going to have a traffic loop that would be set back in the pavement or both. There are operators in the traffic management center. They're there and they literally watch the traffic cameras or watch how the signals are operating for the entire city. When we first turn this on, they're going to be watching to see how traffic patterns establish themselves. We'll put it in with a base signal timing that they can go in and via the computer adjust on the fly. They can set up traffic control plans, from 6 to 7 or 7 to 9, put in different timing to make sure we're accommodating the traffic coming through I'll just say from the north. It doesn't matter where they come from. They're going to look at how much is getting down to that intersection, and they're going to be able to get them on the freeway or get them south through the intersection. But they will monitor it. It's live humans doing this. It's not in addition to automation. There are people that do monitor not only our signals, but also some of our freeway operations every day.
Thank you for that, those responses. Up next, we have Patricia Hughes.
Honorable members Remy and Favor, thank you. And for your committee members, also thank you for your participation. I have lived at Little Turtle since 1998 and am a member of the Little Turtle Civic Association. Briefly, here are my concerns. Number 1, the width of the new roadway. So I understand tonight for the first time that it will be 4 lanes. I only understood prior that it would be 2 lanes. So that's good news. Actually, with the turn lanes, it'll probably average about 3 lanes, right? But I'm happy to hear that I guess the new roadway will be wider than what it is right now on that side. The fact that our oak tree will be kept safe from heavy construction equipment is also good news, because I wasn't sure that any arborists or a city forester's input was involved. So thank you for that. The idea of a roundabout isn't so much a concern, the idea of the size of the roundabout. And of course, we're looking at that traffic light and we're seeing stop. Okay, and when we see stop during rush hour, does that mean that the traffic in the roundabout will be forced to stop as well? I mean, this is the concern. And keep in mind, whether your road study was done in 2016 or 2018, we are still experiencing the building of new units, new residential units on the golf course and on the other side of Long Rifle, isn't it? So and along Ulrey for sure. So whether your plan overall takes into consideration this more recent growth is a huge big question of ours. And so I guess my last question, or my question is, you've said tonight, this is the first I've heard of this tonight as well, is that you have an adjustment capacity. In a couple of years, if it's not going quite right for us all, that you have the ability to adjust some. What is the cost of that? And has that been budgeted in? Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Hughes, before you leave the podium, you made a comment around the size of the roundabout. Are you saying that the roundabout is too small?
Yes, I would be concerned about the amount of cars that it can handle, basically, especially, of course, as was mentioned, the morning rush hour.
Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. Gentlemen, if you could start with the size of the roundabout and just reiterate once again why we went for a 2-for-1. I think that's the wrong language to use, I apologize.
Yeah, so again, the roundabout is, when we say 2x1, that's the number of lanes going through. So we do a thing called an inscribed diameter. It tells us how big the diameter is. I believe we were somewhere in that 140 to 150 feet is the out size of the roundabout. So as far as overall size, the lane widths are there. The lane widths actually inside a roundabout tend to be even a little bit wider than you would if you're going straight. And that's mainly for larger vehicles so that when they're making the turn, they're not over tracking into another lane. So on average, you tend to see when you're coming into a roundabout, if we have a normal width of 12 feet, you might see 16 feet of a lane width on a roundabout. And then again, we also have that, the idea is that any trucks or large vehicles will have to use the inside so they can take full advantage of that truck apron, which is there. And cars, it does have, it's not a flat surface. It's not so that a car can use that to cut across. It does have a, there is a rise to it and so forth, as almost like a curve, but it is designed for trucks to handle. Was there anything else you had? I don't know if I answered.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
So the forecasted traffic, so if we were doing a traffic study and we were getting certified traffic, we'd actually be looking today, if we have that traffic, we would look at today's condition and we would look at 2041. And through that traffic modeling, they actually create little sub areas, then they plan for traffic growth in that area. So depending on the use through zoning, you're going to get certain traffic volumes generated. And I'm trying to answer the question. The way this was designed, it's assuming there's not only base traffic out there, but there's growth traffic in there. So it's already in the numbers when we're planning for this, that it has a certain functional life. And again, we're pretty conservative on making sure it's going to operate.
And that's an important point to distinguish, because we're not just, when we're saying, whether you're saying 2016 or you're saying 2018, which we're going to get confirmation of folks who are still in the conference room, whether you're saying 2016 or 2018, The fact is that you have a base level of where we're at currently right now, plus the expected growth. And even with that expected growth, we're taking that into account as we are making these adjustments to our infrastructure around Columbus, around the region.
Correct.
Okay, and then the other point that Ms. Hughes brought up, when we're talking about the stoplight, and I think it definitely needs to be said that this isn't your regular traffic signal. This is an upgraded signal. So when there is a red light, is the traffic going to be any different than what it would be right now? Are people going to be stuck inside of the roundabout?
The way this has been designed, they shouldn't stack back to the roundabout at all. So we're going to have the cycle running. So today, the fact that it's stop controlled, you have to wait for the traffic that's going northbound on the bridge. You have to wait for a gap to make your right turn. We're going to control that flow using the red lights and the green lights so it doesn't stack back. And we'll flush that traffic out onto the freeway or to the south.
Okay, thank you. Up next, we have Chad Whitaker.
I'll wait for Congressman.
You're good to go. I just need to get my computer charger.
That's okay. So my name is Chad Whitaker. I'm a resident of Little Turtle, and I apologize. I had a big, long speech, but I'm going to cut it down to some simple questions. I'm a national emergency planner by trade, both nationally and community planner. I've worked in public safety, and I also have spoken with Morpsey and my colleagues at CFD, CPD, and Franklin County EMA. And there are some flaws in this plan. Question one we would have is the city's current plan does not discuss the emergency egress factions that we have in our community. Right now, if we had a disaster today, fire, flood, or imminent danger, we would utilize all 4 lanes to proceed directly, everyone in one fashion up toward 161 to dump out and get out of that danger. Everyone on Long Rifle uses Alry Road. In the city's current plan, I have no ability to do that because they come down to a choke point with a roundabout that you can't get out in 2 to 3 lanes. We would ask humbly that they talked about using a buildup on the part of the walkway to use for fire equipment. We would ask for them to add that buildup across the entire multi-use path so that in the event of a disaster, we can actually utilize that and the existing lanes to still achieve that 4 lanes of ability to get out in that disaster. We'd like to know the cost estimate and do that. Secondly, I'm okay with the understanding that we're going to back up after the roundabout. I don't agree with them, but I cede to their ability and wisdom. My question becomes, with speaking with CFD, why are we not putting a fire signal in so that we can make sure people don't stack up in front of Station 29, which would inability to get out the medic and the engines so we can get people to safety? We'd ask them to add that fire signal in so we don't have that problem altogether. We would also look at the fact that the way the city's plan is, they're shifting all of the traffic management toward the residential side, to all of us, and all the open space toward the commercial side, which is the golf course. And we'd hope to have them flip that because they're actually putting more of us in danger by putting more cars and such toward the kids in the residential side and the walkers. And then that open space is actually a benefit to the golf course, not to us. We'd ask that they flip that or mitigate that in some way. We also would ask for them to put some kind of a covenant in place that would put that land into a public trust so that the city owns all of that parkland and it's not available for a developer like the golf course to buy that land for use in condominiums, commercial construction, or adding more holes to the golf course that they've been taking away to build their additional growth. I would also point out that most of the information we find, the crashes on 161 happen at the actual bridge, on the bridge, not in Little Turtle. So we'd be curious to find out with Station 29's data and Station 133's data, why we're not doing some mitigation changes to address that issue instead of making significant changes to our roadway. I would also point out I have heard nothing at all about how we're going to address the stagnant water that will be in a retention pond that would giving us harmful mosquito growth. But also understanding that if you look around that area, we're adding more of a water feature for waterfowl right around a major intersection now. How are we going to mitigate that so we don't have dead birds or worse, crashes because of waterfowl due to your retention pond that close? Looking through here, make sure I didn't miss anything, the questions. I would point out to them that it's hard to say you're a network of roads when you have one egress point. That's called a termination point. And I'm not seeing the way that they're allowed to, with this roundabout, allow for an easy ability to ingress egress as we do today. I think the $1 million is quite worth it to the city council to have residents that are actually getting happiness and security in what they actually had in purchase intent, while also still providing public safety, which is what you're looking to overall. We can work together on that as a plan. Understanding also the fact that there's a difference between presentation and participation, as well as a difference between a conversation and cooperation. We've seen a lot of misnomers on that this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker, for your testimony this evening. Gentlemen, let's start with the first point around failing to address emergency egress and what that cost estimate would potentially look like.
Yeah, so it sounds like he was talking about like in one of the sections with the shared use path where we basically our plans currently show we'll call it a road type section for the SUP, where normally it would be, we do have a section of that that is currently designed for vehicles to travel on. I mean, we can certainly look into maybe the one section of shared use path that does not have that and see what that additional cost is. But we're talking a couple of inches more of base. It's very minimal. It's probably something we could look into and actually address.
Mr. Whitaker, does that address what your main concern was as it relates to that specific problem? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
How's that?
Yep, you're good.
I love WebEx. All right. So my 3 minutes starts now. No, I'm kidding. I'd like to find out if we can go ahead and add the base to the full length of the multi-use path. That way we could conceivably go from the back of Little Turtle Blue Jacket all the way up to 161 if we had an emergency.
Got it. Gentlemen, did you get that as well?
Yes. Yeah, yes, we did.
Thank you. Let's address this second concern around incorporating a fire signal at the station house.
Yeah, so do you want to take it, Jen? All right, so the signal itself, we could work with so right now, the way it has, there's no signal. So if vehicles are coming down, right, they're blocking, they're not supposed to, I think it's patched out and striped so that they're not supposed to be queuing up in front of the fire station. My guess is they probably do that. You know, we still have the same type of striping, but with the signal in place, it'll allow cars, if we give the fire station the ability, they could preempt it. They could call the signal, which would allow everybody in front of the fire station to move through that intersection, open it up, and the emergency vehicles can then get out that way. Currently, they don't have that ability because there is no signal there. So this plan would give them that opportunity. Okay.
Let's talk about the idea around the covenant to own the parkland. Oh, Mr. Whitaker, did you have a response there?
Muted again. There we go. Now I want to thank them for that, but let them know that to be fair, there is currently no hash mark of any kind. So they routinely will be in front of that facility in the mornings. So they, at least some visual cue would help. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the bridge. From Mr. Whitaker's point of view, the bridge is where most of the accidents are occurring. So why aren't we addressing the bridge?
Well, we're putting in a signal there and we're restriping the bridge. Again, we did this in conjunction with ODOT. I don't want to speak that I would have to look to see or talk to our traffic department to make sure that that is addressing safety concerns down there. Let me get back with you on that one, on that answer.
Okay. And we have not addressed stagnant water.
Yes. So the basin that is going in is a dry basin. So the only time you will actually see water in there is during a high storm event. And that's when water would be going in there and filling up. The idea is that over time, and when I'm saying time, that once it stops raining, it may be a matter of 3-4 hours. It'll draw back down and it'll be back to a dry basin. Am I close to that? There might be some water that you'll see as far as a small stream. Possibly, but
Yeah,
I'll let Jenny.
within 48 hours, the water should clear the basin. So it sits in there for a short period of time, and that allows the water to filter and be treated before it's released.
How is that? How is
I
that
was
different than what's occurring right now?
Right now, there are no basins out there treating the water from the roadway network.
Okay.
So it drains directly to the west to Big Walnut Creek.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Whitaker, we will be checking in on addressing the emergency egress and what a cost estimate potentially could look like. We're also going to check in on checking in with our colleagues on the bridge and ensuring that we have exhausted all resources to ensure that we're addressing those accidents on the bridge as well, in coordination with ODOT, with understanding that that's just not City of Columbus to address that. Up next, we have Phil Harmon.
Yeah. I don't know answer that question about what he says. Yeah.
For the covenant on the land.
I'll address that. May I begin?
Absolutely.
Thank you for this hearing. I am Phil Harmon, legal counsel for the Little Turtle Civic Association and all of its members. My clients believe that City Council and the Department of Public Service deliberated and reached consensus behind closed doors on a plan to carry out the Little Turtle Roadway project. My clients believe the plan is specifically designed to benefit the owner of the mounds within the scenic Little Turtle Parkway. You've missed the elephant in the room. For the last hour and a half, you haven't mentioned a thing about the mounds. My clients, the members of the Little Turtle Civic Association, are deeply concerned about losing that essential part of their community, and you've ignored that. My clients believe the owner of the mounds has exerted special influence over City Council and Public Service to obtain a multi-million-dollar benefit at the cost of the residents of Little Turtle. You passed an eminent domain resolution on July 1st as an emergency measure on the consent agenda. That is outrageous. You've passed an eminent domain resolution for private development purposes. That is illegal. We believe City Council and Public Service has withheld certain public records that will shed light on the so-called special influence that I mentioned. Therefore, earlier today, under the Ohio Sunshine Law, I filed a formal complaint on behalf of my clients with the Ohio Supreme Court, Court of Claims. My clients are asking the court to order the city into mediation over this matter. My clients stand ready to engage in good faith negotiations with the city, and we hope that you are prepared to negotiate in good faith as well. My clients, the residents of Little Turtle, have organized around the motto of Save the Turtle. We intend to use the Ohio Sunshine Law to save the turtle. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. I look forward to receiving the documentation that you have filed and responding accordingly. Councilman Remy, do you have any questions? Up next, we have Matthew Wyatt. Is there a Matthew Wyatt present?
Yep, so sorry, we couldn't hear you in here. Coming.
Okay.
Chica.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes. It's spotty. You're breaking up, but.
Okay, give me 1 second, please. Testing. Can you all hear?
Yeah, we've lost audio.
We can hear you though. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? I can hear you guys.
I hear you.
1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Shall I go?
Yeah,
We're good.
go ahead.
Okay.
Thank
Hello,
you
my
for
name's
your
Matthew
patience,
Wyatt.
everyone.
Hello, my name is Matthew Wyatt. I live at 5070 Grasshopper Lane in Little Turtle. I'm deeply concerned about the proposed change to Little Turtle Way. I live north of Derringer, which is the squeeze point that you folks are contemplating. I see new developments, both inhabited and under construction, and I wonder how anyone with even a cursory study of this proposal could conclude that our roadway will be improved by making it 50% less lanes. I spoke with our firefighters up the street, and they agreed that their job will be much more difficult with fewer lanes. I currently take medication for seizures, and when my condition began, it was those same paramedics who quickly arrived and stabilized me. They will be greatly hampered in saving the lives of my neighbors if this proposal is implemented. My question to you is, are you asking me and my neighbors not to have heart attacks during rush hour? Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Wyatt. I believe that we've addressed the lane confusion this evening. But gentlemen, just for clarity, if we could talk about how many lanes will be constructed.
Again, from Long Rifle heading towards 161, there'll be 2 lanes in each direction up to the roundabout, basically from the roundabout to 161. From Derringer heading south to Long Rifle, there are 2 lanes in that direction. As you head north of Long Rifle, there is a single lane heading north, but there are areas where we have dedicated right turn lanes and a dedicated left turn lane in addition to the through lane.
Mr. Wyatt, does that answer your question? You're on mute.
Do I need it?
Go ahead, you're good. Go on.
You got me live now? Ma'am, I live north of that squeeze point, north of Derringer, which is hundreds, if not thousands of already established residences, and now new ones going in. That's all north of that place where there's only 1 lane. And there is no way out. We are dead end. And so it does not address it to me. Thank you.
Gentlemen, do you have any response to Mr. Wyatt?
Councilmember, I would add to it that we've also discussed that the shared use path in itself is an enhanced shared use path that we wouldn't normally build, but it is designed to handle vehicular traffic in a case of an emergency. So in a sense, that's almost a backup lane that could be utilized by EMS.
Thank you for that clarification. Up next, we have Paul White.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul White. I live on Chuckleberry Lane. I've lived in Little Turtle for 40 years. I want to talk about the desirability of the Little Turtle community, but I'm going to change my my prepared comment somewhat because I think that there's an elephant in the room that Mr. Harmon mentioned that we're not really talking about, and that has to do with the impetus for the project. In my consideration of the desirability of the project, it comes to the entryway of Little Turtle, which is really a focal point and really impacts the desirability of our community more than anything else. I brought along an article that recently appeared in the New York Times that talks about greenery and green space. As a matter of fact, they use Columbus as one of the examples of green space and how green space, that there are discrepancies in the use of green space between incomes. And in the case of Columbus, they show a median income of $30,000 with very little green space, and income of $150,000 with more green space. I'm pleased to hear that there is some consideration of planting trees, but I just asked the question of, is the project necessary in the first place, and does it really enhance the desirability of our community? I would urge City Council, not to put more concrete into the entrance, but find ways to keep the greenery and the divided roadway and the mounds and the trees. Just help us to maintain and improve the desirability of our community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. White, for your testimony this evening. Gentlemen, can we talk about and it might be helpful to put up the slide again that shows the plan, the intended plans, as we talk about what the green space is going to look like. So the landscaping, the plan landscaping and future landscaping, and then the incorporation of trees.
Yeah, this is good. So I'll just talk a little bit about the landscaping here. So as you enter the community, as you know, there's the entry feature that's kind of in between the boulevard section right now. So our plan would be to put a new entry feature on the, it'd be on the east side of the SUP there, kind of where the green line is. So that would be the major entry feature as you enter the community. And then as you move up into the community, everything that's on the east side of the road there, south of Long Rifle, will still be green space. There will be the basin there as you get to the north further, but the remainder of that will remain green space. And that's also one of the locations where there will be numerous trees planted through the corridor, in addition to the further north and in the tree lawn. Anything else you want to add on?
Well, the entry. To yours.
Yeah. And then we mentioned the median, or not the median, but the center of the roundabout will also be landscaped. And then I'll point out the area kind of to the north and west of the roundabout. It's kind of that darker green color. So that's an area where the roadway is actually being pulled away from the residents there, and that will remain as a green area. There will be numerous trees planted in that area as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. And last but certainly not least, we have Charles Winmore, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, no, do another one. Give another one.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, the name is Wilmore. Charles Wilmore.
No, I got it, sir. We didn't have you registered, so I just got it by voice.
Thank you for adding me to the list. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Sure. So I live in Little Turtle in Pickawillanny neighborhood. And my issue is one that really hasn't been talked about much. Little Turtle is very unique in that the storm water removal system is made up primarily of the ravines that go through the neighborhoods of Little Turtle. So all the water that comes off of Little Turtle Way into the storm sewers ends up in those ravines. And those ravines are now have forever gone through the housing neighborhoods. I see in the plan that there are some dry storm basins being put in. They're relatively small, and I think maybe there are 3 of them. What's not being addressed is that the large median in between, the large island in between the 2 roadways is actually a very effective, very active, functioning rain garden. And that rain garden is absorbing a lot of the water that is not now going into the storm drainage system that goes into the ravines. When that island is taken out with the rain garden, that water is going to have to go somewhere. And I'm assuming that it's going to end up in the ravines. That could create an issue with flooding and erosion. My question is has the city have the planning people done a hydrology report to determine what the impact is going to be on the stormwater removal system with the loss of that rain garden? Because now I think, because it's not really been addressed, the plan is to remove that large median strip in between those two roadways. And when that happens, it's going to put a lot more water. Even with the improvements to the storm sewers, it's not going to actually make it better because that's going to add more water more quickly into those ravines. Now, there's a history in Little Turtle of an event that was the result of a high storm event. A part of Cambion Way was actually washed out about 3 or 4 years ago by a storm event where there was a lot of water that came down through the ravines and ended up going through the culverts of that road, damaging the road and having to close the road down and costing the city a lot of money to fix it. So again, my ask is, has a hydrology report been done to determine what the impact is going to be of that excess of water that's going to end up in the system? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Gentlemen, if we could start with the notion that the mound is an effective rain garden, is that correct?
So the mound, I would say it's not necessarily a rain garden. It is a mound. So there will be, it's a grass area certainly, and it would certainly provide some treatment as, you know, rainfall hits it and then is filtered through that grass area. It's not necessarily a rain garden, as it's not a depressed area where water would collect.
So talk about what the system will look like now as it's been proposed.
So what's proposed is the stormwater that is collected within Little Turtle Way or within the roadway network will be diverted to the stormwater basin, which is just south of Long Rifle. From there, it will be treated. And when I say treated, it'll be through water quality and quantity, which, you know, treats the sediment and particles in the water, and it also slows down the water. So it's
which is not happening now, right? Which is not happening right now.
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it'll slow down the release of the water, and then it will be released in the same place it is today through those ravines.
Okay, Mr. Wilmore, does that answer your question? Beyond, we'll get to the hydrology report, but I just wanted to make sure I got to the heart of your question.
So it may not be technically a rain garden, but it is an area that is depressed, and it does absorb a lot of water. That in fact, you can actually see on days after it's rained a lot where water is kind of seeping down the sides of the mound, the sides of the island. If you go up there, you'll see that there's a lot of vegetation, and when it rains heavy, water sits in what is depressed area. There's a rim around the island, and on the inside of that rim is all the vegetation. It's not mounded, it's depressed.
Any response, gentlemen?
So I think, just to kind of reiterate, he's saying that the water is getting absorbed by some grass and some plant material, but at the same time, it's also running into the roadway, is what we just heard. So it isn't capturing the water. The new system, we're putting in a storm system to actually carry the water over to the basin, and then through that detention basin, it's gonna retain the water like a sponge and then slowly release it back to the ravine system.
And
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So there is a difference between how it functions today and then how it's going to function with the project.
Got it. So whereas the mound is, and I'm going to completely butcher this language, but where the mound has some ability to capture the rainwater so that it does not run completely into the roadway. The proposed system is intended to provide a new system to completely capture and parse the water out correctly into the ravine in an appropriate manner. I'm sorry, I just totally butchered that.
Yes, I agree. Treat, I think treat is the word you're looking
You agree? Hold on, you agree I butchered it, or?
I agree with you.
And then a hydrology report. Has there been one conducted?
So we have done a report for the water that is going to be entering the roadway network, which is what we will be treating. We have not done a report for the overall Little Turtle area, such as the washout that he mentioned. We have not investigated anything beyond the limits of the project.
Got it. And is that typical of what would happen in any project? You would
Yes,
only do
that's
okay.
what we would typically do. And with the treatment that we're providing, because we're slowing down the release of that water, typically we're not causing any impairments downstream of the basin because we're slowing down that water.
Okay.
Releasing it at a lower rate.
Okay. Thank you. And I misspoke. We have one more speaker, Kevin Dahl.
Good evening. First two issues I wanted to point out here are, you mentioned, Councilwoman, that there was currently no need for a traffic light. Why do we need anything to increase the safety now? I'd love to hear what the accidents and the severity are of them, where they're putting that roundabout now, because as far as I know, and I've lived here for 10 years, there are none. My experience going from 2 lanes to 1, if anybody remembers 71 up in Delaware, when you went from 3 lanes to 2 lanes, lots of accidents, lots of stop traffic, impossible to get through. That's our fear of what's going to happen with the gridlock and trying to get out of our community. One question you did not answer earlier is, why not flip this? You've put the path on the side of Little Turtle. Why not move the roadway to that side and put the path on the other side? That is the side where there are people who live there, people who could get on the path. It would make a lot more sense to completely flip this. I'd like to know the cost of that special path. If that's $1 million, then we're basically at even, right? If we don't need that path, we take that path out. It's the same cost to redo the current roadway as to what you guys are doing. And last, our biggest concern is the complete lack of transparency surrounding why this project is being done to begin with, and any association or quid pro quo or other relationship between the project and the owner of Little Turtle. You've mentioned giving up some land and gaining some land, and the potential loss of the oak tree as an example. We're all under the assumption that you'll be giving Little Turtle Golf Club the land, and they will now be able to build on the current land in the median and between the north and south lanes, which nobody has been willing to address. Is there any agreement between the city of Columbus and the owner of Little Turtle Golf Club whatsoever? Please answer that question. We moved here 10 years ago because of the mature trees, nature, and aesthetics of the neighborhood. The Little Turtle Golf Club has already begun destroying this ambiance with their massive misplaced unsightly apartments and condos, which has not only displaced wildlife, removed significant number of trees, and increased the traffic, but also reduced the value of neighboring homes so the golf club owner could make more money. Tearing down more trees, the mounds, which offer beauty and a place for wildlife and places for people to walk, hike, taking away 2 lanes of traffic will make this community even worse. Nobody will answer our questions about any relationship or negotiations with Little Turtle. It seems the city is more willing to talk and listen to him than it is to its own citizens who live here and pay taxes here. These owners have a history of bankruptcy, ruining neighborhoods, even suing a Columbus school system. They've ruined the ambiance of our community without sorry, we're seeing a phone call. They are currently moving dirt they are not taking away. They're moving that dirt onto other areas of the golf course, which is further deteriorating the nature. This is changing the landscape of our community and impacting wildlife, trees, and other important aspects of our neighborhood, leaving broken curbs and messes in the street. They've also been caught dumping various materials into our sewer system. We've been given the runaround every time we ask Columbus what is going on between you and him. We pay taxes here, we live here, we deserve to have a say, and we deserve to know what the deals have been made. There are much better things to do with the money you've planned for this project that would actually help our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. Gentlemen, any response? Let's start with path on the other side.
So this was to shift the shared use path to the west side, is that correct? And sidewalk to the east?
Mr. Daw, is that correct? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, number one, why not flip the entire thing? And number two, why not just do the roads like they are and get rid of that path? If that path is $1 million path, then we're at even.
Why don't you speak to the cost of the path? I don't know what's going on.
Are we talking, if we're talking about the shared use path in the plan, so, you know, the cost comparison took into account a shared use path going in. If we were to rebuild that road, a shared use path would have also gone in as well. That would have been part of our overall plan. So regardless, and then you would have had maybe a path on northbound, and then what do you have on the complete opposite side of the roadway? Do you put a shared use path or a sidewalk there? So we were doing apples to apples. We were looking at both took into account a shared use path going in. So that was not the $1 million question. As far as whether or not it's on the west side or the east side, I think that also came down to trying to minimize impacts. The shared use path is 10 feet wide. A sidewalk is 5 feet wide. If we were to flip that to the other side based on the alignment that we came up with, there's a potential we may have had more impacts to properties and possibly more trees along that edge.
Thank you for that response. Any response around an agreement between the Little Turtle Golf Club and the Department of Public Service?
Right now, as an agreement with them, the only thing we've approached them on is property. The fact that we're having to get property from them, we have approached them for donations of property, and that's where we're getting additional property for the project.
Okay. Thank you for those responses. Councilmember Remy, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to say at this time?
Thank you for the advocacy of the community. Thank you for the work that was done by the Department of Public Service. Of course, your office chair for holding this hearing this evening. I know my office met with the Little Turtle Civic Association. We've received numerous correspondence from them as well. And so certainly we'll be reviewing those further. We'll be talking a little bit more with the department to get some answers, obviously, that weren't able to be answered this evening. But certainly appreciate the advocacy, and we'll look forward to our further discussions.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy, for being here this evening and for providing your remarks. Again, I'd like to thank everyone that has joined us both here at City Hall as well as virtually for tonight's presentation. As always, I believe community feedback and dialogue is critical to the work we are doing here at City Council. I'd also like to thank the Department of Public Service for their time tonight, as well as the work that has gone into developing this project over the past few years. I hear and understand the sentiments we have heard from some of our residents tonight regarding this pending legislation that will result in some changes to this neighborhood. I'd also like to acknowledge that these changes are not unique to Little Turtle or the northeast side of Columbus, but they are occurring across our neighborhoods. And I understand that change is hard. The reality that we face as a city is that we are growing rapidly. Nearly 50 new people moved to Columbus each day in 2019, and Central Ohio is projected to grow to 3 million people by 2050. This regional growth is so fast, in fact, that our current housing stock and even new housing development is not enough to keep up with this rapid growth. And that is both affordable housing, which I continue to advocate for every day, but also market rate housing. We need more housing development everywhere in our city, which necessitates the need for also investing in our infrastructure. In addition to the many efforts across the region to address our housing challenges as it relates to growth, we also have to consider how new residents coming into our neighborhoods will impact mobility and how we travel across the city. That's why continued investments to our infrastructure to not only fix, but upgrade are critical. We must continue to think about how we do multimodal transportation, be innovative in how we work to reduce traffic injuries and fatalities through street design and education, and also expand access to the bike paths and trails that connect our neighborhoods. Efforts like Vision Zero, Link Us, and the work from our partners at MORPC, CODA, and Recreation and Parks here at the city are an integral part of that connection. I truly believe we can't have this conversation without considering all of the other work and elements at play. Our city is going to continue to change as we grow, but we must continue to do the work to make sure it grows in the right way. And for residents at Little Turtle that have been here tonight or who are watching online today, if you have feedback, as you can see this evening, I took the time to provide the Department of Public Service with the opportunity to go through the project in detail, to ask the questions that have not been answered or there has been some confusion about. And the department is willing to receive feedback. So if there are additional comments about the project, things that we need to answer, please feel free to reach out to my office. As I prepare to close this evening, I'd like to once again thank our team here at City Hall who make these events possible. Angela Burks, Mark Carter, and the team here at CTV, as well as my team, Anissa Lieben and Tynesha Harden. And thank you once again to all who have joined us this evening. Thank you and have a great night, everyone. This now concludes our public hearing.